Uh-huh.
Hello.
How's it going, man?
It would have been better if I could use my laptop properly, but I'm such a div. Right.
Welcome, guys. George is here. Okay. Sorry, man, I can't hear you. There we go. How are you, bud?
Can you hear me? There you are. Oh, hang on a sec. This is all gone. Oh, mate, honestly, it's just all kicking off. Right, there we go. Hello.
Perfect.
Hello, mate.
How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Let me just get myself comfortable. That's better.
I don't have a beer with me, actually, today, which is a great disappointment. That's... when you held it up that close to the camera, that looked like the biggest glass of wine I think I'd ever seen.
It's the smallest one when you see it. It's all I had left.
So how's lockdown treating you, man?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, it's all right. You know, I mean, it is what it is. We've, you know, I think lockdown 2 was probably more of a struggle for me personally. I didn't really enjoy it. I sort of got to a stage where I wanted to, you know, it was getting darker. We couldn't play golf. You know, work was, you know, heavy, which it normally is. But, you know, in the summertime, we were getting out and getting a couple of rounds in the evening, which was nice, you know, and just doing a bit more work at the weekend. And, yeah, it was just a little bit tough. And then lockdown 3 came in New Year, and it's been literally snowed under with work, which has been, you know, really, really positive and really strong in terms of, you know, what we're trying to do with Lyle. Obviously, we'll talk about that later. But,
yeah,
you know, for me, yeah, it's been good. You know, it's just me and my wife in our lovely little house in Surbiton in Surrey, or Greater London, whichever way you want to look at it. And, you know, we get, you know, we've got some nice toys in here which help us get by, you know, being a Peloton bike or it's being like, you know, Sky TV so I can watch my obsession of golf, you know, if it being what's on Sky Golf most weekends or, you know, or what's on in the evenings, you know, I can get my fix on that. And, yeah, it's been all right. I mean, the weather's been beautiful. Today's been stunning. It's been nice to have gone out for a walk. But, you know, it's just been locked down, you know, shut us down and just getting on with it.
Yeah, man, definitely. Talk to me a little bit about your history with golfing. Talk to me from the start. It's a question I like to ask everyone.
Yeah, good question. So golf for me started many, many years ago when I was about 10 or 11. And it's funny, actually, because golf and Lyle Scott sort of came at the same time. For me, you know, I'm a mad West Ham fan. And, you know, I was like seeing all these like boys, you know, wearing this, you know, wearing certain clothing, you know, casuals, terrace labels, and one of them being Lyle Scott, sort of being a little fug at 10 or 11. You know, I wanted to, you know, be part of that sort of culture and that crowd. And but it was only when my dad told me that, oh, I can get them cheap for you. Come to Brownlee Golf Club, which is a beautiful village just outside Guildford, which is where my hometown is. And we walked into the pro shop, and there was just all these like beautiful coloured and argyles, you know, patterned knits from Lyle Scott. And, you know, literally I was like kid in the sweet shop going, oh, which one should I have? Which one should I have? And, you know, my dad was like, no, you're going to have to work, you know, for that. They're quite expensive. And, you know, and at that time, you know, I was helping my dad, you know, in them days when child labour was normal in the 80s, where you could like sort of work, you know, for nothing, you know, age 9 or 10. And, you know, for me, it was like working with my dad on the milk round and doing odd jobs around the house that made me afford to get my, you know, my first Lyle Scott jumper, as well as me getting addicted to playing the game of golf, which obviously, you know, has continued to this day. So let me take my charge off. Sorry, mate. There we go. So yeah, so it was, yeah, so around about 10 or 11 for me, and, you know, I started picking up a club and played at Brownlee. I was a junior member there for a bit, and, you know, sort of the most of the 80s was just a great time in terms of music and culture and fashion. You know, the late 80s and the early 90s come along, and, you know, for me, it's sort of like the acid house scene and the electronic music sort of kicked in, and the rave scene kicked in, and, you know, it took me a little bit away from sort of golf on on a permanent as regular as I would like to have done. But I still went back and played it. Me and my mates all still went out. Coming from Guildford, we were very spoilt for golf courses. In our area, and I had a really good friend of mine at school called Andy Coon, who's a club pro in Thailand now, but he at 16 was ranked 32 in Europe for his age. He was an absolutely fantastic player. And he was a member of Warbleston Golf Club, which is an absolutely gorgeous.
Warbleston, one of my. If I'm going to go over to Surrey, that's going to be one of the places that I'm fortunate enough that I know one of the assistants there quite well. So that's one of the places where I'm like, yeah, dude, can I? Do you mind getting me on? Is it busy? And so unbelievable. I love that place. Yeah,
it's a great course. But there's plenty of others. There's like West Surrey down the road. Just spoiled. Even now living in Surbiton, we've got some good courses. All within driving distance. Some are private, some are very private. But you can always get on. Depending on who you know. Lucky enough being in my industry and working for stores that I was privileged to be like a buyer and general manager of. I know a lot of people that play golf. So when I was through the 90s and the early noughties, if I was having a day off, it'd be either the gym in the morning or golf in the morning. Either way, I was still playing at least once a week. So developed enjoy for the game, but there was times when obviously you wanted to pack it in because other things sort of came your way. I got quite big into snowboarding at one stage, so that took quite a bit of time in my life. And it was a winter sport, but in the summer, we were constantly going up to like Milton Keynes, the indoor
snow dome.
And we had fun doing that. But I think as I sort of became privileged to work at Lyle Scott, which is 14 years ago now. I've been fortunate enough to really sort of play a lot more golf, and in the last sort of 14, 15 months since I knew I was migrating over from fashion, into the golfing community, I sort of decided that I didn't want to look like a Wally on the golf course. Maybe I do with my look or my style, my hair. I apologise to any listeners who don't know me, but I'm classed as the fat Tommy Fleetwood. It's for me it was about learning more about the science of golf. It's all great having a bit of banter on the golf course with your best pals and enjoying it. And I play quite a lot at Guildford Golf Club now, which is where a lot of my closest friends are members, and that's a great course. I love playing there. Some good friends there, and beautiful views of the Surrey Downs, and you can see London on a clear day, and it's just something that I know the course really, really well, and I have a tendency of being quite strong on the back nine, and always pick the money up on that because it's just important for me. But the game's been great. I mean, it's just been enjoyable to play. I've been fortunate to play quite a lot, all over the world, in terms of Ireland and the US and Spain, Portugal, just some of the more commercial sort of golfing markets. And, it's never, ever shied away from me, but more so now it's become a little bit more, my wife calls it an obsession. I call it my working life, but, since Lyle Scott given me the opportunity to come into to the golfing community, it's been from a fashion perspective, trying to use the skill sets that I've got, and develop that into more of where we want to go with golf, fashion. I just wish I was still playing now. I did actually chip some balls into a bucket this morning. So that was quite fun. I was still in my slippers and my pajamas. My wife thought I was mad, but I was just grabbing something from the shed. But that's how we roll. It's just a great game, and it's played by some of my greatest friends who I love to bits.
Absolutely. So, talk to me about your start in Lyle Scott. So, as you sort of just mentioned there, you've not been in the golf side of Lyle Scott for your entire time with the company. Talk to me about how you sort of migrated from where you started to where you are now.
Yeah, so like I said, I worked in menswear clothes shop in Guildford and Kingston for quite a long time. I was as I said, the buyer 18, 19. Was taken to like Paris, Milan for all the trade shows, buying all the brands out there. And in the back of my mind, I always wanted to get into wholesale. It never really happened till quite late. That's down to my fault. But 2006, 2007, I was fortunate enough to meet someone who I know, a guy called Stuart Graham, and he just said, we're looking for people at Lyle. We've got some big things planned for it, get involved. Various interviews, and got the job. And I remember my first day vividly walking into the office in Broadwick Street in Soho, which is now where End Clothing shop is. It's the Jaeger building. That's where we were based.
That's my favourite store. Absolutely love that.
It's a great store.
Such a great layout. I don't recall it as Lyle and Scott. My days of venturing into London until only recently were pretty limited. So yeah, well, that's where it used to be.
Yeah, so we were on the third and fourth floor there, and it was just like it was a really, really good time. So 14, 15 years ago, you always gone up there as a buyer and always thought, this is great to work up there. And when you actually do, it's just like, it's just blinding, the atmosphere, the people that you met. You spend more times in the pub than you were in the office and the showroom. But, in them days when I walked into the office, for me, it was about like, I was going to work for this iconic golf brands that wanted to become a lifestyle brand. And, that sort of has always stuck with me because of the DNA and history that Lyle Scott hold within golfing, the world. We've delivered majors, with certain players wearing our brand. And, it's a real privilege to have that sort of history behind us. And, when I walked through them doors, there was only like 3 of us in London. It was the sales manager, Stuart, and David, and a designer called Enid. And it's just like, wow, I'm part of this like small little community of people that just have this vision about making Lyle Scott more accessible for a new, younger consumer. So, we set out our ways and wanted to do, this vision. And a lot of it was all based on us, slimming the silhouette down with the classic Lanswell jumper, slimming the silhouette of the basic polo shirt, and having it in a ton of colours, because obviously Lyle Scott's always been known, its DNA has always been based in colours, what we did in the 60s and 70s, especially with the golfing knitwear that we've provided. And we just chipped away with certain retailers. We wanted to be more premium. We got away from some of the stores that we were currently in that weren't doing any favours, and just went to premium stores, the likes of End Clothing, for example, Choice in Essex, Diffusion in Wolverhampton, if you took the best 40 retailers at that time, we were in there. And all of a sudden Heritage Sports Brand just blew up. It literally just blew up. I think in 2009, 2010, we won various awards, one of them being the Draper's Menswear Brand of the Year. And it was just a really, really amazing time. And, what we tried to do was, we wanted to have longevity. That was the main thing that we were there for. We didn't want it to be like a sort of a flash in the pan. And we bastardised. Is that a swear word? I promised I wasn't going to swear because my mum was watching.
I think we can get away with it. I think we can.
And if I do swear, I promise myself I'll put £10 for every swear word into the Golf Hipsters charity fund.
Okay. Well, in that case, swear away, and I'll just bleep all the way through the YouTube video.
Don't do it. No, well, let's see how it goes. I mean, I put bastardise as a half swear. You know what I mean? So I've got a little tally going on here. My swear box that I thought I put on. But so we sort of just targeted the right accounts. We organically grew with them. On the back of that, everyone wanted Lyle Scott. I don't know what your relationship is with the brand, but 2010, 2011, we were in. It was worn by everyone from Ant on Deck. It was on T4. Arctic Monkeys, Kasabian. Literally everyone wanted it, but it was based hugely in the UK. And the thing that we needed to do was have the longevity of it. So if we open up distribution, we would have obviously struggled because we would have obviously sold out to the brand. And in that time, there was still a golf business going on. And we had a green. I don't know if you remember, but we had a yellow eagle, which was for vintage, and we had a green eagle for golf, and then we had a red eagle, which was for heritage. And green eagle really just stood out for the green grass accounts. And, the problem that we had is, as the success of the Yellow Eagle started becoming more popular, a lot of golf clubs were buying, where they would normally buy about 20 polo shirts and that would last them a whole season, they were buying 250 polo shirts and selling them out in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then reordering again. So at that time, the business was like, oh, this is great. We're selling so many, but we were having to try and cap the orders because we were thinking that we were just going to sell out and we wouldn't have the longevity that we wanted. But, a few changes happened with the Green Eagle, and what we wanted to do was to change it, because as we were learning about where the business was going, more and more of our markets internationally were looking at us and going, well, you're not Green Eagle, you're always going to be known for Yellow Eagle.
Yeah.
And they were correct. So then the decision around about 7-8 years ago was to sort of change the Green Eagle and the Red Eagle and have it all at yellow, but the applications would be slightly more different. Right. In terms of you'd have a Silicon Eagle for golf or sports specific, and then you get away from the Red Eagle, and then you just actually segmentate your collection. So you'd have a vintage range, but you'd have you'd have a core classic essential range in there, which obviously fits for the commercial customer. But underneath that, then you've got more of an interesting fashion product, which obviously would relate to that younger consumer. But we grew. Commercially, you have to grow. You can't rely on the 40-odd accounts doing the same thing, the same volume of business. But I do remember at that time vividly that a lot of accounts, if they didn't have Lyle Scott, they probably wouldn't still be trading now, because we saved them from a period of time where, they were struggling to find a brand that had the volume of sales that Lyle Scott did. And I was working at my mate's shop in Guildford, called Harrington's. This is about 10 or so years ago. When was it? Yeah. So I got married about 11 years ago. It's about 11, 12 years ago. I was working on Saturdays for my mate. He was selling Lyle Scott vintage. And I remember these cool kids walked in, and one of them goes, oh, yeah, Lyle Scott, that's everywhere. And I'm like, going, but it's not, mate. It's in 46 stores. It's not in any, it's not in Next. It's not in House of Fraser. It's not in, it's in the right stores. And, he was just being like, oh, well, why are you saying that, mate? And I'm like going, well, no, I'm just saying to you that if you want to talk about a brand, I can tell you about this brand, but it's not in every door, you know what I mean? It's in the right doors, but everyone just wants to buy it. And at that time, we were selling, I think my mate sold like 42 polo shirts on one Saturday, you know what I mean?
I remember that time. That time really, around that time was, for me, I was massively into Lyle Scott. Couldn't really afford it at that time, when sort of 45 quid for a polo shirt, when I was sort of not really working. I was probably around a time where it was really popping off. Probably I was 18, 19, something around that time. And everything, we had a store. I grew up in Stevenage. We had a store called Mason's in Stevenage, which was like a boutique-y kind of, it's kind of a fashion store, but it sound like
I know the boys. I sold to them. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, so I grew up going into that store on Saturdays and seeing all the Lyle Scott stuff on the shelf and being like, I've got to get that. I got to know some of the guys quite well in there, and one of the guys I've actually played golf with, he worked Saturdays there, and he used to do a little discount for me here and there on a few pieces. And there's actually, I'm going to put it on my story after this. Actually, I've got a really rascal picture of me on a New Year's Eve with in a club doing the Usain Bolt pose with a Lyle Scott purple jumper on. So I'm going to put that for everyone watching now. I'll put that on my story afterwards. You can have a laugh. It's quite fun.
I would love to see that more than anything else. I think that'd be great. But that was the time when it was just insane that you were going clubbing wearing a Lancewell jumper, and obviously drinking.
Just a t-shirt underneath as well. Yeah. It's just a t-shirt.
And I remember going to the clubs and seeing grown men sweating their nuts off just because they wanted to carry on wearing a Lancewell jumper in a nightclub, which it's incredible times. We had the likes of Ronaldo wearing it. We had obviously Beckham wearing the brand, and it was just an amazing time. But the main thing for me was all about the longevity of the brand, and also I wasn't really sort of thinking so much about the golf. All I was doing was buying our golf products and wearing it whenever I was playing. But for me, it was only around about like 3 or 4 years ago when started identifying sort of within the business about where are we with golf, and what are we doing about Lyle Scott's like sort of vision on the long term, and just speaking to some of my wonderful directors about that, and it sort of was shared the same interest as well. When you look at the pattern of the golf 4 or 5 years ago compared to what it is now, because we can get away with it now, but we couldn't get away with it 4 or 5 years ago. Was that you could do fashion, and you come to your golf shoot and it just looked dull. It just looked really, really bland, and we didn't have any synergy, with it. So it's a bit like, how do we, create the synergy? And we've always talked about, I've always mentioned the likes of Trendy, .com and their vision for golf fashion, because they did that 10, 12 years ago. They wanted to try and create a fashion look within a golfing heritage, and it's they were doing hoodies long time ago. You know what I mean? Obviously, part of that process, and fair play to Cloudy and his team. They've done a great job. As a business model, it's huge. Both in the States as well here in Europe, it's a great business. And I salute them, and I salute obviously the likes of Jordan and Fine Golf Collective, because he's seen the vision that we've seen, and he wants to take he wants a piece of that, and I really respect him for that. But going back to where we were 3-4 years ago, that was the time when we were looking at ourselves and just saying, well, how do we do this? And we were finding it was a little bit negative in terms of like the market was quite fragile. Golf wasn't really sort of in a good place in terms of the numbers were going backwards. More and more people were into getting a $2,500, $3,000 road bike. I was one of them. In that way, just like going out on a Sunday morning for 2 hours instead of playing golf for like 5-6 hours. It was becoming more enjoyable to dress up in Lycra and instead of dressing up a pro golfer. Because I kept on thinking, why do I have to like have a bag that's got Titleist or Callaway? And nothing wrong with them brands, but I don't want to endorse that style. You know what I mean? And it's a bit like, how do I dress it up slightly more avant-garde, a bit more twisted and a bit more different, and I did that in my way, but obviously everywhere you look, and you still look to this day, it's still very regimental. And at the end of the day, when we look at golf fashion, we have to like look at it and just say it's still a polo shirt, a pair of pants and a jumper. It's about how you style that. It's what brands you relate to that style, and it's about what you want to add to that style that's going to give you that point of difference. And it's easy for me to say that because I've been in the industry for a long time, and I look at things slightly more different. But, when I see my closest mates playing golf, I've got a couple of them that are just so out of, so my mate Ginger is, I don't know if he's listening, but if he is, he hasn't got a Scooby-Doo. He hasn't got a Scooby-Doo, but I actually admire that he tries his best to put something together, but he looks bloody awful. Another swear word, sorry. Bloody! I'll say it again, right? Okay. But then you look at what is around you, and if you don't have any people that are aspirational, with what you wear, or players with what you wear, then you're not going to get that vision. So going back to where we were 3 years ago, it was a bit like, how do we work around it? So we were drawn quite closely to what we saw, in America, and especially. The likes of, Malbon at that time, which was coming through. And this is all like sort of connected through a friend of mine, who's Louis Walcock, who is he works for the Trendy USA site, partner. And, we sort of like, connected, with him and just said, look, we're looking at this. What do you think? And he just said, yeah, I think that's a great idea. Come over. So my two directors at the time, one's still with us, they flew out to Orlando, and then hooked up with Steve and Erica. And, at that time, they were on this like booth, and literally everyone wanted to work with them. Like obviously Ralph Lauren and Boss and, Nike were all like sort of like, saying, who are these cool kids? What are they doing in terms of like this golf movement that is making a lot of noise? They're using their skill sets in marketing and social media. And, through the channels that we know of, we got in front of them, and, Stephen knew who we were. It wasn't like, his words were like, Lyle Scott were the innovators of golf, 40, 50 years ago, and like we're trying to be the innovators of golf now, we're trying to move golf forward. So it was a huge compliment, from Mr. Malbon. And, that's obviously we connected, and we agreed obviously to do the collab, and then going into the movement of we'll come back to that later, but then it was decided obviously that we need someone to support that and understand golf specifically, which obviously I come from play the game, but obviously wanted to move the apparel forward into a new direction. Yeah. But at first, Sam, I was not interested. I had no interest. I said, look, I'll do the collab because I was doing quite a lot of that with Lyle in the past, and and I just said, look, arrange to get to Scotland. So we got Stephen and Erica and a friend of theirs to come over to Scotland. They flew into Edinburgh. We got them to Hoyk, which is obviously where Lyle Scott was founded back in 1874. Yeah. We hired a beautiful hotel and we put all our archive there. And I've done a lot of work and just beforehand and identified some of the styles that I thought would be quite good putting a collection together. And myself and another colleague of mine called Barney, did a great job laying it all out. And then, all of a sudden, Stephen, I've never met before, has come out of the car. Erica next, and there's another guy called John Buscemi. I think he mentioned it to you.
Yeah. He works in journalism, doesn't he, John?
John's got his own fashion brand.
Oh, does he? I'm getting him confused with someone. I recognise the name.
Yeah, his uncle's an actor. What's his uncle called? Cousin, famous Buscemi actor. Oh man, I can't bloody remember. Oh shit. 30 quid. If the golf hipsters guy's listening, he's going to be quids in tonight, isn't he?
He's watching. He's in the comments, and the last comment related to the swearing was the relatable golfers put hipsters making bank with a laughy face. So he's happy. There you go. He's got some cry faces. He's laughing away. He's a happy boy.
Good man, good lad. I like him a lot. So John Buscemi turned up. I knew of John, which is great. We were like, what are you doing here? I'm friends with Malbon. Actually, he's a partner with Malbon. And then we had the most funniest 26 hours with them. And it's always memorable when you have something that is always going to sort of hold good memories to the day you die. But, we just all clicked, and we just basically ended up having a right laugh. Stephen designed a two-season collection on the back of a fag packet, practically. And then we went for lunch, and then we came back and we talked more, and we just ended up taking them back to Edinburgh to the hotel, and we went out for dinner, and we all had a laugh, and it was good fun. And then it was decided that we knew we were going to do this, but the plan was that we were taking them to St Andrews the next day, because this is where Stephen and John are connected. They managed to get. We thought it was just a two-ball, just them two playing. And they turned around and said to my colleague, no, it's a four-ball. You're playing as well. So bear in mind,
wow,
I haven't got my clubs with me, my shoes, or any golf and apparel. I've just literally got, actually a golf bomber jacket that we do, and a pair of drawstring Nanamika trousers I wear. We end up taking them to St Andrews. Obviously, have you been there?
I've been to the town. I've never played there.
Yeah, so for me, I've been to the town quite a lot. We used to have a really good independent retailer there called Schmooze, and when I used to do the Scotland sort of.
Sorry, mate, you got on. There we go.
Oh, yeah, we would. I'd stop by Schmooze. Yeah, so we used to go and see an account called Schmooze, and every time I used to drive to St Andrews, it's one of them places where the hairs in the back of your neck just stand up, and you just get really, really excited because of the history and what it represents within, the golfing world. And I always used to say, one day I'm going to play there. And on this particular occasion, at 3 minutes past 1, I was teeing off for the first tee with Stephen Malbon, who before that was being photographed by a load of Americans who knew of him. And then it sort of dawned on me who this guy is. You know what I mean? It's just sort of more come to life. So you're doing research, but being in St Andrews, you'd expect there to be Americans there, and at that time there were, and they knew of him and they knew John. So we teed off. I had a very good round. I played well. I parred the last 4 holes. I take that as a huge achievement. And it was a really, really great day, and that's where the relationship started. And then we you know, and then going back to obviously the golf side to it all, it's like we sort of like continued with the collaboration, and then it was decided that we were going to launch it in the US, and we had this great idea. I never thought it was ever going to pay off, but we thought, why don't we do a party at Pebble Beach for the US Open? Yeah, why not? So we did. So again, I was fortunate to go out there, and my wonderful director Lewis, if he's listening, you know, just said, right, get yourself out there, get it organised, you know, just do as much networking. But we really want you to come into the golfing world, and we think it'd be really good. Even at that time, I was adamant that I didn't want to do it. I was like thinking, do you know what? You know, I know too many people in the golfing world. They always tell me how hard it is and how, you know, backward and inferior the golfing world is, and you know, it's not really where I want to go. I want to go fashion, but then, you know, obviously connecting with Malbon, going out to Pebble Beach was the most joyful experience again. You know, because you're at another place where you always, if you love golf, you love Pebble Beach. You know, it's just got such an amazing scenery. It's got the best par 3 in the world. You know, and we went out there and literally just had a great time. We did a party with Beats because they did a collab with Beats at that time.
Yeah, that collaboration's insane. Like when speaking to him about that was really, really cool. So I mean, just the packaging that they sent all of the sort of seeding pieces out with, like the box and the sort of felt inside of the box, and it's just absolutely insane. Like that's for me is I'm big into the packaging, and you know, when a brand does like a limited release of a pair of shoes, like if the pair of shoes come with a dust bag and come in like a fancy box that's out of the ordinary, like that's the stuff that gives me such a kick. So, but yeah, that collaboration is insane.
Yeah, there was a great story where we were setting up on the Tuesday for the party, and we played golf that morning. I played with Cole, who is Metalwood Studios, great guy, and Mark Watts, who's the owner of American Rags, who actually owned the house where we had the party. And in that afternoon, we were setting up, and there were some of the Beats guys there with the. I mean, it wasn't the collab that you're talking about, which is
okay.
It was something that they did. It was like a Beats Malbon collab, and it was a speaker and a set of headphones. And then, you know, they kindly gave me a set of headphones, and you know, I was like going, do you know what? One thing I do love about Beats, and he's just this American guy I've never met him. He said the packaging, everything is just really, really thought really, really well. And he said, what we do is when you open the box, you know, we have a guy that actually works out the time when it slides up and down like that. So, you know, it's in a very smooth motion. So it creates that movement of excitement. Instead of it just springing back up, it just comes up like this. And, you know, and you can see the idea and the thought process on it. And, you know, for us, you know, it was an opportunity on the Tuesday night, especially on, you know, 2 days before a major, when a lot of the industry all turned up. And at that particular party, you know, we had the likes of like Tony Finner, Justin Thomas was there, loads and loads of like the management, loads of you know, people from the industry. So it was a really good opportunity to sort of network. And for me, it was, you know, we showed the collaboration there, and we shared that with a lot of the people that, you know, entertained who came along to the party. And, you know, he's sponsored by, you know, whiskey, Stephen is, so we had plenty of drink, plenty of, you know, smokes and whatever, you know, really, really good fun. And then that was on the Tuesday, and then obviously we Wednesday, Thursday came along. Obviously, Thursday was the first day. We had a colleague of ours called Luke Kelly who came over. He won a prize to come all the way over to San Francisco through the company. That's one of the best things about Lyle Scott. We really reward our staff, you know.
Oh, wow, okay.
And, you know, without telling the story, it's quite funny. He had to win it through rock, paper, scissors and stone. And he won. And it was nice. It was like, you know, he hated me for saying this, but he's like Rodney Trotter. You know, he's this very tall, lanky, but the most funniest, driest sense of humour you'd ever meet. If we had time, I'll tell you some more stories about him. But he came over, and then I remember the Thursday, and my boss Lewis was with me, and he just said, "Look, what are you saying?" And I'm like, "Going, what do you mean?" He goes, "Look, you've got to make a decision. You've got to come into golf, or you're not going to come into it." And I'm like, "Do you know what? If golf's like this, I'm in it massively." So, you know, that was the start of me coming out of the fashion side and then migrating into golf. And then, we exited from my old role within the business, and then, moved into the golf about November last year, the year before. And it's just been interesting. You know, at first it was one of the things which, you know, I was struggling. You know, I wasn't loving it. You know, I was finding it very, very difficult. Who's the people I need to speak to? Who are the people that I want to speak to? Who are the people that I trust? And you know, how do we take this forward? So a lot of last year was me learning about the industry inside and out, and trying to get a bit more of an understanding about the markets, because, you know, we currently operate around about 26 different markets all over the world with Lyle Scott. You know, golf in particular is about 14 different markets. So that gives you an understanding of the role that I'm doing, which is looking after all of it at this moment, which is fun. But, you know, where we've got some great success with Lyle Scott is Sweden. That is huge. You know, we've got a great business there. We're in some of the most commercial accounts there, being Dormy, which is the biggest like golf retailer in the whole of like Scandinavia. And a great business with us. And then we're in the likes of NK, which is like the most coolest store, very similar to like Dover Street Market. You know, lots of variations. They're taking the Malbon range, they're taking some of the other collabs that we're doing. And then, you know, we can move like to Central Europe. You know, we have our business in Zalando, which is one of the biggest online retailers in the world. They do a great job and they buy really, really cool and modern. And then, you know, you go down to like some of the new markets. We picked up Spain and Portugal. Great success with a new distributor there. France, Germany, steady. It just needs to be a little bit more work on. South Africa, if you go onto the top 10 golf courses of South Africa, we're currently in 7 of them.
Oh, wow.
In the pro shops. They don't have many like online retail there. And then we go a little bit further towards Pan Asia. We've got a huge business in Australia and New Zealand. And, you know, we have a licensing deal in Japan, which is really, really important to our growth of golf. Yeah. And, you know, we're in great conversation with some amazing people from Korea, which is a huge appetite for golf over there. Yeah. You know, they recognise us because of our DNA and our history, but they also recognise about who we are as a brand now. You know, when you look at Lyle Scott, you know, people may have their perception in the UK about, oh, they've been around for ages, you know, it's this, it's that, or whatever. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we are, you know, we're a commercial brand that's got a really, really good mindset about where we want to be. And the next 5 years for Lyle is hugely important for golf. 1st of April for our next 5-year plan. And what's really exciting about that, Sam, is golf is a big part of that. And, you know, hopefully, you know, I will inform you of that as time goes by, because we've hooked up and we've become friends, and, you know, and I want to share that with you, because I think, you know, when you know when I'm allowed to tell you, and when I know like some of the collabs and some of the projects that we're going to be working on for the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to really sort of like take people surprised.
Awesome. And talk to me a little bit about the Mulbon Collection. It's so obviously when it comes to a collaboration between a couple of brands, how many pieces, you know, when you're looking at going, right, we want to do something together, we reckon we can make it work, we think it could be a great success. Whose sort of decision is it to go, right, I want to do X number of polo shirts, a jumper, etc., or who kind of comes up with that? And then design-wise, was that Stephen Mulbon going, yeah, I want it to look like this? Or talk to me a little bit about that for a collaboration. It's something that always fascinated me.
Yeah. I think you'll remember with Stephen, he's a renegade in his own little way of how he does things. And fundamentally, he's not a fashion designer. So, you know, but he has vision. And a lot of that vision was, as I said, like written down on the back of a cigarette paper and an A4 bit of. And then we transferred over to an A4 bit of paper, and then we handed it over to our design team, and they just looked at us and went, what the I was going to say what the fuck is that? Right, another one.
Yeah, go on. That was well worth it. That was well worth a tenner.
That was worth it. And you know, we just laughed at him and just said, look, we know what we want, because we took the original pieces with us back to London, and we just put it together of how we saw it at that time. But, you know, any idea of the collaboration is about fusing 2 brands together. You know, it's about like what we get out of it. The main ingredient for us to go with Malbon and for Malbon to work for us was purely because he needed a reference to get into the UK market. And we needed a reference to make ourselves look a little bit more different within the golf market, which I think has helped us out hugely, because probably if we didn't start that collaboration 3-4 years ago, me and you wouldn't be having a chat now, because you'll be looking at Lyle Scott and going, what's going on there? But we've changed because we've looked at ourselves, you know, in the mirror. We've identified where we can make some good movement, you know, within the golfing community, but also have a brand that has synergy across all its ranges. And you know, that collaboration was hugely helpful for us to, you know, to get into the likes of Korea, to get into the likes of Japan, you know, into Beams Golf, into Clubhouse Golf, which we did have a relationship with our licensee, but we needed to make it a little bit more modern instead of it being a bit more classic Lyle and Scott Golf, because, you know, I was a little bit apprehensive about coming on to this, because I was thinking, oh, what do you want to talk to me about? You know, I'm a bit, you know, I'm doing a job and stuff like that. But the more I think about it, you know, what I want to tell is that I want, you know, the younger generation to look at Lyle Scott Golf and go, wow, and not realise that we've got all this great history. But the older generation, you know, they look at Lyle Scott and they still think we're a jumper. You know, it's a classic loungewear business, because that's their perception. And I went to a golf club in the summer and I'm not going to tell you who it was, but I remember showing the hoodie and the hoodie and the track bottoms, the gold track bottoms, which you did a great review. Thank you very much. I know you love wearing them.
Yeah, I love them. They're great.
Them on our website. But you did. I had to plug that one in, didn't I? But
I was going to say, I'm going to drop a link to that in the description on YouTube. So if people do want to go, they know where to go.
Yeah. So when I showed it to this particular golf club, you know, the club pro absolutely loved it. He was all over it. He was like, this is brilliant, this is brilliant. He went straight to the chairman or the secretary. As soon as he saw the eagle, he was like, oh, Lyle Scott, brilliant, lovely jumpers, but showed him the track bottoms and the hooded golf top. He went, you can't have that in the pro shop. And the club pro, Andy, said, we are, because this is where it's going. This is what I'm seeing. This is the appetite. We need to be part of this, because we're trying to get, you know, younger members. You know, we're trying to do the academies. We're trying to do that, and we're not going to get them with the attitude that you've got. And that is, I mean, I know we've spoken.
Oh, sorry, mate, you got a little quiet there.
I've been on the phone all day. Yeah, because I've been on the phone all day.
All good?
Because I'm not organised. Right. Don't breathe, Sam, because the phone will roll over. But, you know, they're the little hurdles that we've got to get. And, you know, slowly we're chipping away. People are making noise. You're making noise. Chris Collett's making noise. You know, Jay Lindeberg's been making a lot of noise. Trendy's making a lot of noise. Fine Golf. And we will get that movement. You know, me and Chris Collett talk about it as evolution. Oh, bollocks. Oh, that's another one. How am I going to do this? I need my wife to come and just hold it. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to do something. Give me a second. This is just so embarrassing. Everyone's like, how many people have we got listening? About 5?
No, we're up to 25. We've got 25 people watching in. So
I thought it'd be like a scene out to Take Me Out. You know what I mean? Like, no likey, no like.
Boom, 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 boom.
Oh, that's good. And hello to all you 25. You know, and so yes, the perception has got to change, and we are doing that. You know, we are making this movement. Yeah, and I want Lyle Scott to be part of that. I want us to be the new innovators of golf, like what Malbon said, you know, 3 years ago, because we were doing that 30, 40 years ago with our brand. And we can do that now because, you know, we're in a good path. We're making some of the most amazing, you know, product, not just because of vintage. If you look at our webpage now, it's hugely important to the growth of the brand, because obviously the appetite of retail is changing now. Yeah. You know, we need to do amazing content. So every time that we think of something, we're thinking about what that content's going to look like and what it means to us, that we can share to all our partners. And the classic thing, you know, you know, going back to the collaboration, we will be doing more of them. You know, we are, you know, in conversations, you know, with people already about the next ones. The ones that I can tell you about is, you know, I've told you about Hooked Golf. You know, that would be something small because we want to give something back to Chris. We as a brand love Chris to bits. We think he's a top boy. Great energy about him. So we'll be selling that to selected stores coming soon. I do have Malbon Drop 2 that we will be launching sometime this year. I just need to get over the line. There's a few obstacles because we've got some changes on some of the things that we're looking at doing.
Right.
I'm doing something with New Era, which is great. Which is a collab because New Era are sponsoring the Ryder Cup. They're looking for like fashionable golf brands to come in and give them a bit more of an edge because their perception within the golf is very limited. They are known obviously for being a hat brand, in the world, but it's about where they put their market in. So obviously we know that they do a ton of hats for like Chelsea or Man United or for basketball and American football teams, but they actually do great golf hats as well. Something else that I'm working with, which is in conversations, we're going to be doing something with Jones Golf Bag as well, which we discussed last year.
Wow.
When we were in Orlando, they really liked us. We have a great connection, a hook up with them because of the Trendy Sport Agency guys. So they're just some of the little things. I'm not going to tell you anything more than that, Sam, because
that's absolutely fine.
It'd be weird, but everything that we do is about making us look really, really interesting about how we can connect to the new audience. And I want that younger person to look at Lyle Scott and going, do you know what? They are actually doing some really exciting stuff, and we want to wear it on the golf course. We want to pair that up with a Malbon polo or a Malbon hoodie. We want to wear, something that Lyle Scott is doing if it's connecting with another brand, because we just think that's the look that we should be going for.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, the most important thing is that we don't alienate our core consumer because, in golf, that is a big part of our business, and, we're not going to change a guy from, wearing his nice vanilla polo shirt and his nice vanilla pants, into be wearing something that Lyle Scott is perceived as really cool, for it being a track bottom and a hooded top, if it being JL, if it being, Lyle, if it being Grayson or whatever, he's still going to be wearing his Under Armour, he's going to still be wearing Nike, he's still going to be wearing his Adidas because that's what he sees on the tour. And the tour players are really, really exciting. But, tour players, barring a few, are all very regimental and very boring, you know what I mean? And there are certain brands out there that I personally think are too saturated in the market on the tour. And, we need newness in there. And if we can get the players that I'm pushing for myself to get, not just for now, but also for the next 2 years, then, I would then like to think that there would be a change of direction where people would be more looking at that particular player because, one, he's on the tour. Second, he's got a great social media reach. Thirdly, he looks a little bit different. He doesn't dress like his normal, golfer. So when I create a brief for my perfect tour player, it's very hard to find. But we found a few, and we have a few, and I will create a Lyle Scott Golf family of players, and if it being one or two people from each of our strongest markets, then we will have that in their markets to support them to use the right social media channels that we have got within our business directly to endorse that player. And there's potential that we may switch away from the Instagram page and have a Gold Pacific Instagram page, which would be super exciting, which obviously I can get more coverage of golf out there. But that's all in the pipeline. For me at the moment, it's about, the tour players give a certain commerciality, and if we have obviously the likes of Nicholas Lemke, we've got Richard Kohlberg, I've got Miko Kohonen, it's really good. I've got another player that I'm in, another 2 or 3 players in discussions at the moment. I've got a meeting tomorrow, which would be really good. But there's one player that I did pick up from Australia, which is a guy called Travis Smythe. I saw him play on the Australian Open. I saw him being interviewed. He just sounded like a surfer. He looked like a surfer. He was this tall, beautiful, blonde man, great long hair, man bun, but he looked awful in the clothes. And I just literally DM'd him, just said, "Look, how you doing? I'm from Lyle Scott. Really liked, I really like your style of play. I really like your look. You do great photography. You've got a good, good thing about you." And he was like, "Yeah, man." And he just said, "Oh, I don't know about it. I'm contracted to wear this brand." I said, "Look, that's fine, but can I give you, can I have your address?" And he went, "Yeah." And then I sent him some stuff. And in there, in that stuff was some of the Malbon. And in Malbon, he was like, "Oh man, I love Malbon. You're doing a collab with Malbon." And again, that opened up the doors.
Yeah.
And now he's got signed for us for 18 months. He's a great player. He's up and coming, but he fits in with what I want to do. He's got great social media. He's good looking. He's a great golfer. Yeah. And, you know, we really believe in him. And he wished me all the best. He might be listening, but he wished me all the best earlier because he knew I was going to be on the show tonight. But, you know, that's how we work on it. So, you know, collaborations give us coolness. You know, tour players give us that commerciality. Yeah. You fuse that together. And then what you try and do is that you try and educate your consumer as well. So when we founded Chris was something that my brand director, Ben, great lad, he's sort of like, you know, constantly looking at Instagram, constantly looking at sort of where things are going. Yeah. He said, do you know this guy? And I was like, no, but I've seen him before. And then I just sort of like went, right, Chris, I know this guy. I know him from somewhere. So I basically DM'd him again. We had a phone call. I think we spoke for 4 hours the first night. You know, like that sort of, you know, like that relationship, like when you meet a girl. You know, my wife's watching this.
I my fiance's watching as well, or she might be listening downstairs. She might be right behind the door. You don't know.
But you know, like it was all of a sudden a bit like, oh yeah, you're amazing, you're really good, and you just like hooked up with someone that you felt like, oh, this is just beautiful. This is really nice. I got off the phone. I was going, what a really nice bloke. I really like him a lot. Literally 2 days later, I said, do you want to do a photo shoot for us? And he went, yeah. And he came down and we used if you look at our photography, again, using the word synergy quite a lot, he is, Elliot's a really up and coming young photographer, really great guy, got a great team behind him. And he's never done a golf shoot. So I shared him a lot of vision of what I wanted. And, you know, he took that on board, but then used his own style and his own signature to that shoot. And obviously Chris, you know, obviously the only photography he's done is, you know, on a phone or on his camera. And, you know, having a professional photo shoot was something that he never looked out of place. He looked really, really good in it, you know. And that's where, obviously, we just thought, do you know what, we can work around this guy because we really like him. He calls me a spiritual animal, which I think is beautiful. I love him for that. And, you know, he's a dear friend now for me. Really top guy, great golfer as well. But just creates that look and is really humble about what's happening to him. You know, you get a ton of brands that are going to want something from him, but he's loyal. And, you know, and I've given him some support and knowledge of from my, he's probably going, yeah, whatever. But you know, from my perspective, you know, I'm there to help him out, like he's there to help me out with my growth, my brand, and I think that's just super exciting. So we continue using Chris, but when we did the photo shoot and we shared that to our commercial golf market, you know, there was a lot of it, you know, a lot of like, oh my God, he's got tattoos. He's got a neck tattoo. It's like, we can't have that. We can't have that. You know what I mean?
I could just imagine it. I really can. I could just imagine that reaction of showing them the first photo and going, this is something we've never seen before.
And you could hear the silence, and then you know, I had to have one-to-one meetings with them, and they were like, oh yeah, talking about your imagery, can we get another shoot of a normal guy playing golf? I'm like, no, this is what we're doing. You know, and you're not paid, and you know, you have a marketing budget, whoever you are, whatever your agreement is, but you can't do that. This is what we believe in. This is the vision. And on some of the markets, and you know, I'm not going to mention who, but you know, there was a lot of obviously sort of conversations, hard conversations with them about this. And they said they weren't going to use it. And I said, fair enough, you're not going to use it, then that's your problem. But guaranteed, we're going to be using it on our social media, and I will guarantee that your customers will approach you after 6 months and say, why don't we get the imagery for this guy from Lyle Scott? Because that's really cool. And in theory, what actually happens, you know, their customers, their buyers, their merchandisers, their owners, the club pro, whoever, you know, phoned up our particular agent or distributor and just said, we really like the imagery of Lyle Scott. Do you have any so we can use it? Then our agents and distributors have phoned us up going, hi, you know that imagery? We love it. Can we have it, please? You know what I mean? And it's just breaking down the barriers. If someone doesn't do it, then, you know, first, then other people will do that. And I know JL's been doing it for a lot longer because they've got that market share, but we're coming at a slightly more different angle to them. And I think JL's a great golfing brand. You know, I have a whole lot of respect for what they've done and, you know, and people that have worked for them. And the same vision that Johan Lundberg tried to deliver to the golfing world, where he wanted to be the rock and roll of golf because he loved the game, but he thought the whole setup was so boring.
Yeah.
And he's created that in a big way. So so collabs are good, and there are going to be some more in the future.
Yeah. It's interesting how, like you said, a decision there that, we need to do this this Mulbon collab. We need to do the Malbon collab. We need to do it. It's crazy how a decision that is made like 3 or 4 years ago really does change the future for a brand. Because obviously if that decision doesn't get made 2 or 3 years ago to do that and to make that breakthrough, then like you said, I mean, Lyle Scott might still be in that stage of great, all the history, quality of the product, but they would struggle to have that relevance, if that makes sense, in a current day market. Do you think the Mulbon stuff has really kicked off this big change for the brand? Because I feel like it is a big change for the brand.
I think it's been brewing for a long time. I think, when you look at how people style their golf and apparel in other markets, not because of what Malbon's doing, when I see what's going on in Japan and Korea, it's a different look. When you've got 10 million golfers in Korea, and there's a huge percentage under the age of 30, they're not going to dress like their dads on the golf course. No. They're going to create their own style, and they've been doing that for a long time. I think what the difference is with Malbon and what I've seen and what I've liked over it is the attitude that golf apparel has created over there, and I just think it's really refreshing for someone who's been playing for almost 30 odd years. You always got to stick by the rules, and the rules of golf apparel sucked in certain golf courses. I respect them in certain ways, like taking your hat off when you're in a club bar or whatever. I think still that's a great tradition.
Yeah, but absolutely.
Telling me that I've got to wear socks below my knee is a stupid tradition. Telling me that I can't have my polo shirt tucked out is a stupid tradition. But respecting the rules of the game, which is what I do and what you do and what everyone else probably listening who plays golf does, who's interested in this golf movement, then that's hugely important, because that's what we've been brought up in golf by it being my dad or your dad or another family member, or just the rules and the respect for the game is important. But the actual golf apparel rule sucks, and I find that quite disturbing. And if we don't change it, then we don't encourage young people to get into this great game, because that's what it is. And Malbon has opened up that door. Like the fact that Jordan's got it in Fine Golf Collective. I pictured it a year or so ago, and there was people that could be like Jordan to open up Malbon within the UK, because in theory maybe we were a year too early. I don't know. The sales were good, but it opened up. The main thing is it opened up a few doors for us, and probably less doors for actually, tell a lie, opened up quite a few doors for Malbon. We did a lot in Europe with it, but when you do a collab, and going back to that, you should always look at how successful that collab was, because sometimes with a lot of other brands, they look at collaborations as a marketing exercise. Yes, that is in some sort of way, but at the end of the day, it's still a business, and you still got to make money out of it. And if you lose money, that's not very good. And we're privately owned, and if our owner found out that we did this and we spent this amount of money, etc., and we didn't make a dime out of it, then she will be challenging my heads. Just saying, well, we're not doing that again. But in theory, we need to be doing it, and we need to learn better on how we actually execute the next one. So I think from a perspective that the movement is going to happen. If we sit still, then it's not going to happen. If we keep doing what we're doing, and you do what you're doing, and everyone else that's involved in this movement, then there will be changes. We will develop a younger guy attracted to golf to play this game, but do it in his own way. Because I have friends of mine who have got kids, who are sort of like, been playing most of their sort of youth level, but they've got to around about 15, 16. This is going back a few years ago. They've dropped their golf career or their golf game, and they've got into skateboarding. And now they're in their 20s, whatever. Come back from university, they move back home or whatever because of what's going on. Now they're playing golf, but they're playing golf in their style because they're seeing the likes of, Lev and Palace. Guys have talked about that in the past when I've listened to you. shows that Levy's now become a golf fan, but he was a golf player many, many years ago, because that's what he brought up. So, you know, certain people were privileged to play this game, and, you know, certain people now are respecting it and coming back into it in a big way, but doing it in their own way, in their own style, and that's really, really exciting for the game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting to hear. You know, so many people. There are so many people who get to who start playing from a younger age. They get to that 16, 17, 18. They stop playing for 10 years and then come back to it. It's just bizarre how many people I speak to. I'm working in a golf club. It's, you know, retention of membership and everything is very high on the list of topics that we discuss on a regular basis. So it's really interesting to try and find out the way that we can, as a sport, combat that. How can we stop those people moving away and coming? How can we keep them during that time? It's really, really interesting topic. Where do you see, say, 2031 and the coronavirus is still with us, and it's 10 years time? Where do you see sort of the world of golf fashion in 10 years time? I know I normally say 5, but I want to stretch it to 10 for you. A man of your knowledge.
Oh, man, I'm not that much of a visionary. Christ, I can tell you where I see it going in the next 2 to 3 years' time.
Yeah.
But I think 10 years' time, if we look at the way the game is evolving, and we look at hopefully a generation of people's stinking attitudes moving away from the game because of certain reasons. I'm not going to sort of say, you know, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Possible way, you know, the old farts are basically going to kick the bucket soon.
Yeah.
And is farts a swear word? Do I have to put that down?
No. We can. That's probably worth a $5 to hipster, I reckon, that one.
Okay, I'll put. She's going down. But, you know, in 10 years' time, I think it all depends on the level of what the R&A and what the PGA are doing. I think it depends on how quick the game evolves. Then I think fashion will then evolve around it. You know, I think when we talk about some of the success that we've had as a business, and then talking to the likes of American golf buyers, where, you know, they see our tracksuit bottoms and our hooded tops and our Martin t-shirts that we sell, you know, in the pro shops or in American golf stores, because the kid that's walking in, you know, with a handful of clubs, you know, is looking at that and going, oh, that's quite nice. And then he's trying it on, buying it. And then he's coming back the following week with the same clubs, but wearing a hoodie and tracky bottoms that represents golf, because it's Lyle Scott, it's the DNA. But he's only hitting golf balls. He's either doing top golf or just smashing golf balls with his mates. So if we can get more, I mean, when I was in Orlando, I went to Top Golf, and there's one near me in Addleston, about 20 minutes drive. And, you know, that's pretty rubbish. But the one in, you know, Orlando is just immense, you know what I mean? And I really love to see more of that, because, you know, I have a foster kid. She doesn't live with us anymore, but, you know, she's now she started to date, and she's going to like Putt Shack in Westfield in White City, and she loves that. And if you had more of, you know, Top Golf with the attitude that it's created with the music and the bar service, then we're going to get more and more people into the game. So I think once we can get more of that, more fun back in the golf, I just see golf fashion moving in a direction. But like anything in fashion, Sam, everything comes around. And, you know, in terms of where I see the next 2 or 3 years, you know, I think it's going to go back into being a bit more sartorial, a bit more classic. It's going to be going into, you know, more tech cotton silhouettes, where slightly looser fitting pants. You know, not going back to the old days where, you know, you've got polo shirts that are 5 sizes too big. But because if you can, fabrications are always evolving and moving on. And, you know, my designer for Sport, Anna, is great at researching for new fabrics. And, you know, that's really important for us as a business, that we design it, and then we give it to Anna to give it that fashion, or she design it, and then we put that sports feel to it all, because, you know, you need to have that sport element, because fundamentally you are playing sport. And I think gone are the days where, well, I don't think it's gone are the days, but, you know, we try to have that polo shirt that can be worn on and off the course. Yeah. And I think that's great. But I think when you're playing golf now, you know, when you walk into a pro shop, you know, you're thinking, right, that's the polo shirt I'm going to wear on the course. But you're not going to think of it like wearing off the course, because buying it from the pro shop. When you go to a menswear shop, you're going to be thinking, that's the one I'm going to go out this Saturday night with my wife for dinner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so there's a difference. So, you know, I think technical fabrics will be big in a way. I think in 3 years' time, sartorial classic. You know, I'm already looking at. I'm a huge fan of what Manners is doing. I love their idea and their taste and their style, and you know, sort of want to use that in some sort of capacity. And speaking to the likes of Anti Country Club and the Hype Golf guys and the Golf Lickers guys, which I'm speaking to more so, they also see that vision as well.
Yeah.
Coming into place and moving away from, should we say that the Malbon look, the sort of West Coast, sort of like California style.
Yeah.
That will still remain because it's super comfortable, super relaxed, and super young, youthful.
Yeah.
But as you get older, you want to be, I like dressing up. It's like if you go to a wedding, you put a suit on. If you go to a golf course, you want to look style out a little bit because it's really, really nice. If I was playing at Wentworth, I'd be like making sure that I've got the right outfit on, that represents a great guy, not just Wentworth, but if it being a Grove, if it being Andrews to a degree, but doing it in my way. And I think that's the exciting thing about where it goes. I think it's a blank canvas where golf and fashion is. We sort of know what we want to be doing, and we know how we're going to get there. But in theory, it's about like how we draw it and how we make it look cool is the exciting stuff. And I think when you think about Lyle Scott, we've got all this DNA. We've got all this heritage. Before lockdown, I was up at Turnberry, we're having a meeting up there with the buying team, and all around the clubhouse was beautiful pictures of Greg Norman in '86 holding a cloud jug wearing a Lyle Scott jumper.
Yeah.
And there's some great stories about him from what I know about Lyle Scott. But I'm looking at that Proudest punch, thinking that's my brand, and that's in '86, and that's in theory when I was really getting into the game, I was really loving it and stuff like that. And my dream now, and there's nothing wrong with having dreams, and we have visions at Lyle Scott. And my dream now is that I would love to see a tour player win a major wearing Lyle Scott again. And that is one thing that I will do my damn right hardest for the brand's 5-year plan to sort of try and to believe in, because we also have another vision, and it's a very bold statement from Lyle Scott, but we love it and we think it's important. But we want every man in the world to own a piece of Lyle Scott. So the more bigger we are, the better we will be at making that vision happen. Bold statement, but hang on a sec. Starbucks turned around and said we're going to put a coffee shop on every street corner, and they've sort of done that in a way.
Yeah.
So I think the future is very healthy for golf.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking at back 10 years ago from where we are now, and if you look at the tour, I mean, I regularly watch the highlights of the they do the official films on Sky of the Rory McIlroy in 2011 winning the US Open at Congressional, and the only thing different from a tour player's outfit between then and now is the trousers are now slightly slimmer fitting, and that's about all that's really different. And so I do think the next 10 years has got that chance to make a bigger leap towards something a little bit different. I like to think in 10 years' time, we're not going to be just looking at the way a garment fits on a tour player, that it's slightly different. I think we're going to see something a little bit more drastic, but that's just my take. But
oh no, I mean, I think there's definitely a point there to look at. From that, we can always go back and revert back to history and product that we've always done. It's about how you make it in a modern way. So when I went to Turnberry, we saw obviously the pictures of Greg, and then made me speak to Anna and just said, like, how can we use the iconic jumper that Greg Norman's wearing and move it to a modern day? And then I flew back. I had a couple of meetings up in Scotland, and I flew up to them and drove to Turnberry to see Colin there, and basically just said, look, what do you think of this? And just said, yeah, love it. And then COVID's kicked in, and unfortunately some of these resort golfs are been hit hard because they're not getting the influx of tourists flying over from Asia or from America, which will happen. Which links me to obviously some of the other things that Lyle Scott are really, really like wanting to work in, and brands like Fine Golf, Collective Jordan, is something that we're putting together and working out what we can do for him. Even the Links Diaries, I don't know if you've come across that. It's a beautiful magazine publication. What I love about it is the imagery. It's stunning. The stories are great. It represents Scotland, and we're Scotland. We're proud, I'm not Scottish, obviously, but we're proud of our roots and proud of where we come from, and we want to use that in lots of ways. Even like Scott sticks, bubble whips are great, they're cool, but Scott sticks are from Scotland, and they're really well made, and there's a great story behind the guy that owns that, and they're the little things that I want to put a bit more time in and love, because that sort of relates to sort of what golfers like. For me, you look at little things and you look at it and just go, do you know what, that's really cool, I like it. So adding more accessories and more interest into your style is really important. It's like when you go to a wedding, sometimes it's not about the suit and tie you wear, it's about little things. It's about like a handkerchief, it's like
tie clips,
socks, your tie clips. You can do that with golf, just add that little bit of touch into it. So I can see that coming in if it goes down to that more sartorial sort of classic way. You look at some great imagery in the 50s, when the likes of Bob Hope and Dean Martin, or 60s more, when they were wearing for golfers, velour collars, loose fitting trousers. All right, they were lucky enough to have caddies carrying their golf clubs, so they can just style that even more so. They'd be more carrying a Stones bag that's got like a ton of beer in there or something. But the main thing is that as long as you look good, you play good. I've always
that's what it's all about for me. Like, dude, I've kept you for we've done way over an hour, so I just want to leave you on one very, very quickly. So obviously, I know coming on the show this evening is going to be very high up there. I know that already. But talk to me about your proudest moment at Lyle Scott. So obviously, you don't have to say right now, because I know that this is probably the pinnacle for most. But talk to me about your proudest moment for the brand. What's a moment you look back on and you go, that was so sick, or I'm really glad that happened, or something along those lines? I'll give you a second.
Oh God, there's been so many. I mean,
because there's a reason why. I like to, for those of people watching, I like to do a little bit of prep for this. I like to send over whoever I'm speaking to in the evening a few sort of bullet points and stuff, that topics that I'd like to cover, and so I like to throw a little spanner in the works right there at the end.
There's so many, Sam. Going back to all of the shows that we've done, trade shows, being recognised as like the best brand in the UK, and some of the new markets that we've opened up in. But I think probably the latest one was having an opportunity to go to Pebble Beach and making that decision there and then that I wanted to migrate into golf. And I now don't. I look at my previous career with the independents and the fashion side to Lyle Scott with fond memories, but I'm only looking at the future now. So I suppose it's that time at Pebble Beach on a Thursday. Lewis asking me the question, "Do you want to come into golf?" Yes, I did. And then on that Saturday, when we finished, we had the party on Friday night. A lot of the guys were all going back, and then I was walking around, Pebble, following Justin Rose and Gary Woodland, who eventually became the winner, with a couple of guys that I was hanging around with from LA, who were friends with Malbon, and just literally having one of the best Saturdays I've ever had in my life. And that's when I realised that this is the path I want to go to, because I still see a future, with golf empowerment, and I see a great future for Lyle Scott Golf because of the vision and the team that we've got behind us. It's not all down to me; it's all down to the people that, from the product developers to to the designers, to my heads, to my directors, they're all part of like the growth of Lyle Scott Golf going forward now. And I'll be making sure that I'll be kicking our asses big time to get that the level of where I would be more comfortable with, and then I can high five you and we can go and play golf somewhere nice, and there's some more stories.
I look forward to that, definitely. So, my friend, thank you very much for giving up the time on a Wednesday evening to chop it up with me. And go on.
I just remembered I never taped Grand Design, so I've missed 15 minutes of it.
It'll be on catch up. It'll be on catch up.
Yeah, I've been bit by it, mate.
I was going to say I'm probably taking you away from your work time as well, but I really appreciate you coming on, telling some really, really wicked stories, and the passion for the brand. We've had a number of conversations in the past, and the passion for the brand's always come across in the discussions that we've had about it, and yeah, certainly putting me onto it a little bit more, because I think without the conversations, you know.
Yeah, and just to say this, keep up, keep doing your work. When I spotted you, I just thought, you know what? Again, it's another one of this like sort of vision that sees the difference, and I really respect that in you. And I also believe that we're in this like sort of, when there is movement that goes on, when there's changes that are happening, everyone will congregate together. So I don't have no issues talking to any other brands that share the same vision. I don't have any issues talking to other people, that want to like sort of change the perception of golf, because as long as we if 5 people listen to this, only, I don't know how many you've got now, and then they tell their mates about Lyle Scott or Malbon or what the golf fashion guy's doing, then we grow and grow, and that's the big part of it. So I'll do that to you, and I wish you good night, mate.
Thank you very much. No, I really appreciate it, guys. So everyone who watched this evening, I hope you did find it enjoyable, as enjoyable as I did. It was a really, really fun conversation. This will be on my profile page for a week or so, and then I'll get it up onto YouTube. I'll put loads of bleeps in it for all the times that Dickie broke the golden rule of not swearing. I'm joking. I'm joking, man. I'm joking.
I think I owe £40. That's what he's quoting up now. You know what I mean? So I'll speak to our main man and work out how we're going to send it over to him. His charity of choice.
Absolutely. Well, Dickie, I really, really appreciate your time. I really do. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone for watching. And I'll see everyone very, very soon. Dickie, I'll look forward to catching up at a later date, my friend.
You're a star. Nice one.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of Enjoy the rest of that wine.
I've drunk it, mate. I think the whole bottle's full already.
Cheers, bud.
See you, mate. All the best.
See you soon.